or the north bridge, there was a combine and a grain wagon coming over. So be careful. Farm equipment's still moving. The harvest isn't quite over yet, and until it rains, which I think tonight and tomorrow, there'll be a lot of equipment on the road. So take it easy. Be patient. And, you'll get to where you're going.
Yeah, I think I made it over the bridge just before they closed
probably.
it down.
Yeah, I was surprised that, it was moving slow, and I looked up and saw the combine, and I got over to the Iowa side, and they actually had the one lane blocked off, which was good because the guy was taking up 2 lanes.
Oh,
so it was
that goes on quite a bit.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there's a lot of farmers that go between Iowa and Illinois, and they use these 2 bridges a lot. So just be patient, though, folks. You'll get across.
That's for sure. Okay, we've got a big list to go through. So why don't we start it off? And we've talked about this a little before, but Illinois hunting seasons.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. November is traditionally the time when most of the major seasons open up. The archery season for deer has been open in Illinois for quite a while, all the way from October 1, and it runs through January 16th. And I think Iowa's pretty close to that too, but check your regs here in Iowa. Don't forget, for archery hunters, they do close it November 19th through the 21st and December 2nd through the 5th. That's the 2 Illinois gun seasons. So you can't archery hunt then. They used to let you hunt if you wore orange, but they have started to close it just because there's been some issues with problems and accidents and that. So just keep that in mind if you're archery hunting. The 2 Illinois gun seasons are coming up. The second Illinois season, December 2nd through the 5th, is very similar to Iowa's first season. That one's December 4th through the 8th and December 11th through the 19th, and that's Iowa. Illinois is December 2nd through the 5th, and that's season number 2. And part of the reason Iowa's gone to those later seasons is to decrease the amount of buck harvest. Illinois' first gun season, November 19th through the 21st, falls right in the middle of the rut. And it really puts some of those larger breeding animals in danger, being harvested. If you're a hunter, that's a good thing, is you get a shot at a big buck. But herd-wise, I'm not so sure it's good. And, Iowa's kind of gone away from that and moved it to the secondary rut, which starts around that first week in December. But the bucks don't have a tendency to get hammered quite as much in those later seasons. And Iowa has some tremendously large animals roaming around out there too, so I applaud your efforts at that. A couple other seasons going on. Waterfowl season in Illinois at least runs through December 21st. Looking at the weather forecast, those shallow areas may be frozen up well before that, though. It's supposed to get really cold this next week, and there's a chance of snow even. So keep an eye on that. But if you have open water and we get a snowstorm and those big northwestern Alberta clippers start coming in, you're going to have a good push because those birds will start coming out of the Dakotas. Small game season in Illinois has started. Pheasants, quail, rabbits, November 6th through January 8th. And then the season I'm involved in, trapping season, starts tomorrow, November 10th, and runs through February 15th. And then there's an extended beaver and otter season that runs through March 31st. One other factor to keep in mind, too, squirrel hunting, coyote hunting, and fur bearer hunting, like coon hunting, is closed during the 2 Illinois firearm seasons. The reason for that, those 3 hunting seasons usually involve rifles. And in Illinois, rifles are not legal to harvest deer with. So there's been some incidents where people claim they were squirrel hunting when they were actually out poaching deer. So be mindful of that. The one exception is if you have an unfilled Illinois gun permit and you see a coyote, you can shoot it and be legal, though. So that's the exception to the rule. A couple other issues that are coming up, and we talked about roads. Besides the farm traffic, the harvest is causing another issue. You have to keep in mind that those cornfields are used by wildlife a lot during the spring and early fall and summer as habitat, and especially escape habitat. And when they're harvested, and then you have a major breeding period going on with the white-tailed deer, it leads to a lot of problems on the road. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is besides deer, there's coyotes moving this time of year. And you don't want to hit a coyote either. That can cause considerable damage. Maybe not as much as a deer, but it'll still kind of mess up the front end of your car. So keep that in mind. A lot of raccoons getting hit right now, of course, too. Usually they don't cause a bad problem, but it's still a mess. But slow down. use your brights as much as possible. Watch the sides of the road. Pay attention. Usually first thing in the morning and the last hour of sunlight are the big times, but it can happen any time right now. Breeding period runs all the way through about the first part of December. So from now on for next month, be very mindful of what you're doing out on the road, and please pay attention. Slowing down though and paying attention is the biggest factors in not hitting a deer.
Yeah, you never know when they're just
bound
right out.
I've got as much experience with deer as anybody. I've hit 3, I think. 2 of them I saw, or 2 of them I didn't see. They just jumped off a high bank right in front of me, and I slammed on the brakes and I still hit him. The other one I saw, I honked. He turned, spun around, and ran right in front of me. I thought he was going the other way. I had slowed down at least, but I still hit him. So, this is the time. Be very mindful if there's timber around, but even if there's open cornfields, they can still run across them and get in front of you. So it's kind of a dangerous time out there on the roads right now. So be aware of that.
Okay. Coyotes, is there
Yes.
a pretty big coyote population?
Yeah, they seem to be fairly resilient. I know a lot of people don't like coyotes, and I've shot them, I've trapped them, but I have a lot of respect for coyotes. They're really intelligent animals. If you've ever been around dogs, they're equal to or more intelligent than a dog. They're survivors. There's an open season on Illinois, or in Illinois on them, and there's still a lot of coyotes out there. And yes, they do some damage to game, but they're omnivores, just like humans. They eat fruit, they eat insects. Yeah, they'll take pheasants, they'll take deer. There's no doubt about that. But if you have good habitat, those populations, those game populations and non-game populations the coyotes are feeding on can rebound from that loss to the coyotes. So then, don't get me wrong, I harvest them too, but I do have a lot of respect for them. They're really intelligent animals, and they have adapted very, very well to humans. It's amazing. I get them running through my backyard. I think I've told the story before. I woke up one night and got up, and it was a moonlit night. I don't know, about this time of year, and I looked out my bedroom window, and there was one sitting about 10 foot away from me, looking in the window at me, just staring away, and he was comfortable. And he saw me move in the window, but he just kind of looked up, and then he finally trotted away. So they're very adaptable animals. Where they get dangerous at, though, is in cities where they don't feel threatened at all. They can be pretty tough on pet populations, and they can cause some problems. So that's the situation. When animals get very, very comfortable with humans, usually it doesn't turn out well. So keep an eye on that. But coyotes are, they are due some respect. Like I said, I don't think they should be poisoned or every one of them shot. I think they're part of the environment and they do belong, but they need to be controlled too.
Yeah.
So.
I've seen a lot of foxes around too.
And that's a good thing. When I was a kid, it was very common, you and I are about the same age, but back in the 60s, it was very common to see red foxes. We used to have them in our backyard, and I lived on the edge of town. They were everywhere. But it seemed like in the 70s, once the coyote populations came on, they became the top predator, and the fox populations really dropped. But we are starting to see a resurgence in red fox numbers. And I think it's because of the CRP program. There's more grass around, and it gives more of a base for both the coyotes and the foxes to feed, so they're not competing quite as much. And it makes a difference. Red fox is a beautiful animal. Mm-hmm. When people first came to this country, several hundred years ago, they thought it was a cat, because they do look kind of cat-like. And if you ever see a gray fox, which is a cousin to the red, lives in woodland areas, they look very, very similar to a cat. And they used to call them catamounts sometimes. But they were just foxes. They are a canine and related to the coyote and the dog. But they're cool animals. I love those things. And I trap too. So, but once again, I have some respect for those animals too. They're beautiful animals.
Okay, so. Well, let's move on. Number 3, CRP.
Yes, CRP is still open. I think most everybody that's listening to the show understands that that's my biggest workload. And we're trying to get more help. This year wasn't quite as bad as last year. Last year we got buried with CRP requests. I mean, it was incredible, the number of people we had, not necessarily coming through the door, but working with us and trying to work through the COVID thing, plus with the workload. It was kind of difficult, but we made it. But yeah, CRP, the continuous part is still open. So wetlands, filter strips, any of the water quality type practices that are buffers, you can still come in and sign up. we're anticipating another general sign up for the hillier ground or larger chunks too. So keep that in mind. But the filter strips, the wetlands, the waterways, those are all open right now if you have a need. And a lot of guys do that after harvest, to go out and harvest the fields, and they see a problem, they come in, and we try to work on a CRP solution for them. So this is the time.
Okay. And we're on to Illinois turkey permits.
Yes, turkey permits. If you're not a landowner, the first lottery goes until December 1st. You have to have a specific county in Illinois, and you have to pick a season too. There's 4 or 5 seasons in Illinois. So the first lottery is open till December 1st. Second lottery is open December 12th through the 11th. Third lottery, January 22nd through my birthday, February 9th. And normally after each lottery, IDNR on their website posts the number of permits for each county that are still available. So it's a good idea to check before you apply so you're not wasting your application. There is a $5 fee, and you don't get that back if you don't get a permit. The other thing to keep in mind for spring turkey, you're only allowed 3 permits. And that includes a landowner permit too. So don't try to use somebody else's permit. That's really illegal. Get fined for that. So, but turkey permit, the lotteries are open right now for spring, and if you go on IDNR's website, you can find out when the seasons are too. So,
okay. Number 5, timber work is a winter job.
It is. I've talked about pruning and thinning is best done when it's cold, when there's no insects and few diseases, and it gives the tree time to heal up from the pruning wound. The other thing, though, is most foresters, if you have a nice stand, especially walnuts and oaks, and you want to possibly do a harvest, get a hold of a consulting forester to go through an inventory and set up the sale for you. You'll be amazed how much more money you make that way versus just telling somebody to go out and harvest. And a lot of the loggers want to be out there when the ground's frozen so they don't damage the soil, and getting in and out, it's easier. So this is the time. If you haven't had a forester yet, hopefully you can get one in there to set it up. But, November through probably February is the time when a lot of the timber is harvested around here, or used to be at least. And keep in mind, cutting a forest isn't the worst thing in the world to do. I just soon see somebody do a regulated harvest on a timber versus going in and slapping a bunch of houses in there or bulldozing it out completely. Do your management, keep that timber going, and don't forget, young trees sequester or capture a lot more carbon than older trees do too, because they're growing, and it's just like a teenager. They take that much more nutrients to grow. A tree takes that much more carbon to grow. It stores it, and keeps it where it belongs instead of up in the atmosphere. So timber management is important for wildlife management. And one of the better ways of getting some better trees in there is going out and actually collecting your own acorns and nuts and planting them in the fall. It's really getting too late now. Especially with white oak. White oaks actually germinate in the fall. So if you wait until spring, they usually die. So you have to get out there fairly early, do your harvest. I usually soak them overnight and then plant them the next day. So and it works out really well. You have time for one more thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to read everything I have here. We are looking for help. I don't think I've made too much of a mystery. I'm retiring, and April is going to be it for me. So if you're interested in a good paying job, you're going to be working hard, but it's an interesting job, and you have a interest in natural resources, this is your opportunity. And it could be anybody from Iowa or Illinois. So far, we've only got 1 application in, which is very, very disappointing. It's a good paying job. The chance for advancements there if you want it. You kind of control your own world. And if you're an independent thinker, you like natural resources, give us a call, and we'll certainly get you an application. Hopefully, get your job.
The person got to do, or qualifications?
It'd be good to have a degree in agriculture and or biology. Plant science, some kind of a rural background is good. It's primarily a rural job. You're going to interface a little bit with the cities, but we just don't have big cities around here. And it's 90% rural activity. Right now it's more wildlife oriented, but that could change depending on the board and the employee too. So there's a lot of stuff to do, but natural resources and agriculture are probably the 2 big areas you'd be working in. So, and maybe doing radio programs too.
Yeah, we hope so. Well, that'll wrap us up for this this month. I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
You too,
and
Greg.
The family, and we'll see you
Sometime in
December. What's
December.
the date here? Is it 14?
14th. It looks
14th.
like, yeah, 12/14.
See you then.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Dave Harrison with the Whiteside County Soil, Water, and Conservation District. Paul, over to you.
You're listening to AM 1340 KROS, Clinton, Iowa.
FM 105.9.
And KROSradio.com.
This is Radio Iowa. I'm Matt Kelly. The lawyer for one of the two 16-year-olds charged